Good evening and welcome to NetAccess Daily Kitzur Shulchan Aruch share. Unfortunately, I'm experiencing slight technical difficulties, so no visuals, just audio this evening. Try and fix it later. So we are learning Siman Yud Aleph, which is Hilchos Mezuzah, about Chafei Seifim, which has 25 Seifim in it. Seif Aleph. Mitzvah Saseh Likba Mezuzah B'chol Pesach. It's a positive commandment to affix a mezuzah on every door. And even if he has many rooms, and every room has many doors in it, I assume which all of which are designed for people to go in and out through. Even though he normally only uses one of those doors, nevertheless, all of them are mechuyev to have a mezuzah. All require a mezuzah. But even if the number of people living in the house goes down, and now he only needs actually one door for the house, nevertheless, they all require a door, mezuzah. But if there is a door which is only used occasionally and only used for bringing packages or parcels into the house, and there's a separate door that's used for people to go in and out of, then the door which is used only to bring in packages and parcels is potter from needing a mezuzah. It's if based. Also, the gates of courtyards and streets and cities and even countries or counties, not just houses, they all require a mezuzah. It says in the Pasuk where it talks about mezuzah, it says ubishorecha, in your gates, which implies even of city gates and bigger than that. When you fix a mezuzah, it has to go on the right hand side as you walk into the door. And if you put it on the left hand side of the doorway, then it's possible. And you have to take it off on the left hand side and put it on the right hand side and make a bracha. And for this halacha, even though we're talking about right and left, it makes no difference whether the person is right handed or left handed. So if that you've got two houses and each one has its own entrance. To the street or to a courtyard. And in the wall which goes between the two houses, so there's a common wall between two houses, there's also a doorway there. And now there's some doubt about which side of this middle door should there be a mezuzah, should you put mezuzah. So here we follow what's recognizable from the hinges. That means that the place where you put the hinges for the door, so the door opens into one of the rooms. The way that the door opens into, that's what's considered the main part of the house. And you put the mezuzah into on the right hand side as you go into the house. So the way the door opens. This is only when the two houses are equal in their use. But if one house is the one which is used mostly, has the main use, so in that situation you wouldn't follow just where the hinges go. Rather, you always put the mezuzah on the right hand side that leads as you go into the house, which is the main use. Even if the door opens into the other side. So where do you put the mezuzah? So the place, it should start from the beginning of the upper third of the height of the doorway. If you fixed it anywhere higher than that, then it's kosher. So long as it's at least a tefach away from the lintel. If you fixed it lower than the top third, then you have to remove it. and put it back properly with a bracha. You can cover a tefach elyon, and if you fixed it in the top tefach of the doorway, you see your gam cane, you should also remove it from there, the kivar and fix it properly. In that situation, you wouldn't have to make another bracha. You should cover a tefach and you should put it on the tefach which is closest to the outside of the room. The doorway, but if you didn't do that, you made a change. In this case, then it's not going to stop it being sifla. How should you fix a mezuzah? So kolcham is so full of rosha. You have to roll it from the end to the beginning. That means me'echad klapi shema. So at the top of the top line means Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So you roll it from the side that says Echad towards the side that says Shema. And you put it into a tube or some other container. And you fix it with nails in the doorposts at an angle. And its top, that's the line which has Shema on it, should be towards the inside of the house. And the bottom line should be towards the outside of the house. And if the doorpost isn't wide enough for you to do that, then you should fix it vertically. And it's better for it to be vertical rather than being at an angle but put behind the door inside the house. If you didn't fix it to the doorpost, you just sort of hung it on the doorpost, and it's possible. And therefore, you should be careful that you should nail it into the doorpost at the top and the bottom, so it shouldn't be considered to be hanging. Before you fix it to the doorpost, you should make the bracha. And if you are putting out more than one mezuzah at the same time, it's sufficient to make one bracha to cover all the mezuzahs. If the mezuzah fell down by itself, when you put it back, then you also have to make another bracha. But if you took it off in order to check it, therefore then there's a sofek whether you should make another bracha when you put it back or not. In some doorways, there's a small doorway next to a much bigger door. And normally the way to get in and out of the door is through the smaller door. And the big gate is only opened only occasionally. Since there are two doors, separate doors, and between them there's a pillar that's tefach wide, then it requires two mezuzahs. Test. If you're in a situation or a place or a time where there's a genuine concern that someone might steal the mezuzah, if he's able to, then he should dig some sort of hole or niche into the doorpost of the house and put it there inserted into the doorpost. But he shouldn't go too deeply into the doorpost, more than a tefach. Because if you go too deep into the doorpost, it's not considered on the doorpost of your house. Then it would be considered inside the doorpost of psula, and then it would be possible. You should also be careful to make it at least some recognition, should be recognizable where the mezuzah is. I suppose it's not possible for him to make a hole inside the doorpost to put it in, but he's still worried that it might be stolen. Then you can rely in extreme circumstances when it's necessary to fix it inside the house behind the door. But if you are going to put it behind the door, you have to make sure that it's still on the doorpost and not just on the wall. And you also shouldn't move it more than a tefach away from the sort of doorway space, because then it would be possible. If you a house or a room is not chayav mezuzah unless it has a space inside it of 4 amos by 4 amos in a square. Now suppose the house does not have a 4 by 4 amos square, but it has enough space that it's equivalent to 4x4 amos. Let's say it's very long and narrow. Is round. So if you take the area of the room is equivalent to 4x4, but it's not, you can't actually fit a 4x4 square inside. Some people say, some opinions say you're chayav, and some opinions say you're potter, and in that case, you should seek the advice of a competent halakhic authority. So if you'd a doorway is not going to be chayav to have mezuzah on it unless it has two doorposts. And each doorpost has to be at least 10 tefachim high. And it has to have a lintel going across the top of the two mezuzahs. Even if the doorposts are not made from wood or stones separate from the walls, but the walls of the building itself form the doorposts and they have some plaster on them, that's also going to be chayav mezuzah. Now suppose a room has only one doorpost. Going, for example, so for example, on one end the wall extends further, so you've got one long wall, and in the middle you've got a doorway that sort of crosses along a longer wall. So you have a doorpost on one side, but on the other side is just a long extending wall. If the doorpost that is there is on the left-hand side as you go in, then it's pata. But if the doorpost that is there is on the right-hand side as you go in, then there's a doubt whether or not it's chayav to have mezuzah. So in that situation, you should put it up a mezuzah, but you should not make a bracha. Or, perhaps better yet, you should put the mezuzah on that doorway after you put it up, after you put a different mezuzah on a doorway that definitely is mechayev mezuzah. And so when you make the bracha on the one on the doorway which definitely needs a mezuzah, that would put you from or cover the situation of the other doorway which you're not sure whether it needs mezuzah or not. And similarly, any situation where there's a doubt about whether you need a mezuzah or not, this is what you should do: put it up without a bracha, or better still, put it up at the same time as you put up another mezuzah which does require a bracha. Thank you. Have a good evening, and apologies again for the lack of video.